And have a look at the conditions here in Victoria, just outside of Melbourne. The track is wet and greasy, and that will certainly make things very, very interesting, exciting, entertaining, as you wish. The grid has been cleared, and we are moments away from the second of three 150-kilometre races this weekend. Yesterday's opening race was in dry conditions, something different, something new today. Let's check out how they will line up for the second race of the V8 Ultimate. From pole position, and these reflect the finishing positions of yesterday, qualifying positions on the right-hand side of the graphic. Scaife, Lowndes, Kelly, Ingle, Bright, Ambrose, Seaton and Murphy, the first four rows.
Jason Bargwanna and Bradley Jones climbing up to 10th. It was a great effort, that from 23rd on the grid. Stephen Ellery and Stephen Johnson, Larry Perkins and David Bernard, Stephen Richards and Garth Tander.
Tander was a little down on himself. He made an error. He could have finished higher. McDougall climbed up from 31st to 17th. Richards, Radicic had a stuck throttle. That's what forced him all the way back to 20th position, and Rodney Forbes in 24th.
Matthew White and Mark Larkham. Paul Morris had some problems yesterday, finds himself back on 27th. Anthony Tratt, John Faulkner, Paul Romano. Rick Kelly blew an engine in the Holden Racing Team Commodore. He'll start right down the back alongside Cameron McConville. Amazing job by that team to get that car repaired in time for today. 32nd
and final vehicle on the grid as they are in the middle of their warm-up lap. Wet, greasy conditions. We'll give you a look at the in-car cameras. Paul Radicic, the Rat, was starting to force his hand, and he was coming up through the field. But then a stuck throttle put paid to his hopes yesterday. That was the Shell Helix in-car camera. Russell Ingle, the Strathfield in-car, fighting for second. Exciting times for the Enforcer.
Yeah, he's got it all to do. If he finishes in front of Jason Bright in this race and manages to start race 3, he will nail second place in the Shell Championship Series. The third time he's done that in his career. Greg Murphy in the Kmart Commodore. He's someone who's working hard here to try and steal that. He's still in with a mathematical chance of taking second in the series. But boy, he's got a lot of work to do.
Craig Lowndes, an outstanding drive yesterday from 14th to 2nd. Very, very calculated. Strategy was good, and then they were marvellous in the pits, the Gibson Motorsport team. In-car camera shot there for Craig in the AU XR8. And he starts alongside this man, the the back-to-back, I should say, Shell Series champion, the VB in-car on-board camera. And Mark Scaife starts in the best possible position, front row, pole position, and heading for another win perhaps. Marcus Ambrose, our final in-car camera. The Monroe in-car camera. And Marcus will be hoping to be Ford's best finisher. He's got 2 opportunities to get his first race win in a V8 supercar.
I guess the question, Neil Crompton, is would anyone have taken the gamble and gone out on slick tyres in these conditions?
Well, that's the one that Barry and I have been discussing down this end of the table. If you did elect to run with slicks, it may prove to be a quite healthy gamble at the moment because it's not really tumbling down. Because the other thing is, though, given the fact that there is a compulsory tyre stop, some people will be opting for wets and then they'll change onto slicks, which would be certainly the safe option. There is certainly, as you can well see from that shot there of Mark Scaife's car, a lot of water on the road, and there you can see the grooves, wet tyres on the newly crowned champions tyres, and I think you'll find the majority of the field have opted for that. The problem with slicks in these 50-50 conditions is they don't build any temperature, and it's so easy to lose control of the car. Marcus Ambrose on wets.
You'd have to say that the best bet would be wets, wouldn't it? Because after all, you're coming in for a compulsory stop. If you take a punt on slicks, you're going to be much slower. You know, to try and get any temperature in there, there's no chance.
However, there will be somebody, I'm sure, out there who's taken the punt.
So if you're up the back end of the field, you'd take a punt, wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
Definitely.
You've got more to lose if you do that at the front end of the field.
Let's not forget turn 1, Holden turn over the years here at Sandown, particularly when it's wet. Boy, is that a hot spot for action. We'll keep our eyes on that. It was a hot spot yesterday when Cameron McConville rolled the Lansvale Commodore. We're seconds away from a start. It's the opening race of the day, but it's race 2 of 3 over the weekend. Lowndes and Scaife from the front row, and it looks like Lowndes won that, hands down. Side by side, no, Scaife has come back. Wow, great comeback there, and Greg Murphy blasts through the field. Look at Murphy on the outside. This has been an outstanding run from him. His teammate Todd Kelly's on the inside. The Kmart Commodores are flying.
I'd say Lowndes has got some kind of problem because he definitely got a better start, but he's lost so many places in the run up.
He lost it quite quickly. His jump was good, but then he got a lot of wheel spin thereafter, and the 3 Holdens shot to the front.
So Mark Scaife leads them round through turn 4. Greg Murphy, boy, did he pounce. He came from 8th right up to 2nd before the first turn. Bright has dropped back. Good start by David Bernard in the Haviland Ford. Here we go.
The danger for these cars further back in the pack. Look at the amount of spray and mist back there.
Oh, it's Larry. Oh, dear me.
So I was going to say, you get caught up in that bumper-to-bumper stuff, and usually someone takes a bit of damage on board, and Larry Perkins is the first one to suffer.
So Holden's 1, 2 and 3. The first of the Fords is Lowndes, makes an inside move on Kelly.
Whoa, good
Thank
move.
you. Nice one. Has he overcooked it? Kelly tries to come back. Ambrose is in contention as well.
Side by side, and Kelly cuts across in front of Lowndes. Lowndes wants to argue, though. He comes up the inside under brakes. There could be fisticuffs here. They're side by side. Holden and Ford. Final turn onto the pit straight. Who's going to give way? Kelly on the inside, Lowndes on the outside. They're leaning on each other. Marcus Ambrose wants a slice of the action too. Craig doesn't want to back off. Getting up to 200, over 200 kilometres an hour, side by side past the grandstand. And Ambrose has got a great run out of that turn. So Lowndes backs it off a little bit, and Kelly takes that position back.
Safety car is on the circuit.
Ah, okay. All the field's slowing down now, so they've brought the safety car out.
Someone's
look at this.
got a big fire in Larry's car coming off turn 4 onto the back straight, and we've got another car at the end of the back straight with dropping oil and smoke everywhere. So Larry with a big problem there, and I think, yeah, there's that's the car I was telling you about, the Romano car.
Romano thing.
Look at that. Short wheelbase Commodore,
Whoa,
new model unveiled today.
Yeah.
Well, and
downforce
truly
bonnets. That's really
damage to a number of Commodores in the pack there. And it was always going to have it. Wet, slippery conditions, tons of spray. Everyone pumped up for that first lap. Very rarely you'll get through without any damage.
Wow, what an exciting start. Greg Murphy, the biggest winner. He blasted from 8th up to 2nd and is right there with Mark Scaife. Impressive stuff from his teammate too, Todd Kelly, who was fighting it out. Now watch Murphy left of screen. The Shell Helix replay right around the outside of Marcus Ambrose. Wraps up Russell Ingall as well. He's side by side with his teammate at the moment. He says, I'll take Craig Lowndes as well. Flip back on the outside of there. And watch Todd Kelly, centre of screen. He'll duck on the inside of the silver and black AU XR8. He comes on the inside of Craig Lowndes. A dynamic start from the Kmart boys.
There was a yellow flag being waved back there on that replay, the Shell Helix replay, so somebody must have stalled back at the back end of the grid at the start of the race as well.
Let's see if we can catch the Perkins incident from this cherry picker shot. Let's see where Larry is. He's a bit further back in the pack. That's his teammate Russell Ingall up ahead. Now, where's Larry? There he is.
There's Larry there.
Now watch this.
Around the outside of McConville.
And he's just behind Romano, so it looks like it might have been some sort of...
there you
look at
go,
this. There
look
were
at that.
6 cars involved in it, 7. Oh, and Larry's already got a fire on board.
McConville avoided that incident, but Larkham was in there, Wheel was in there, Anthony Tratt was involved as well.
The further it gets down, the first one goes through. Oh, look at that. Fire on the back.
This was the fire, the replay of the fire situation. Larry getting out okay, but the marshals were onto it very quickly. And they managed to get that fire doused very quickly with the fire extinguishers.
Just having a word there with Jeff Brett, guys, from the Holden Racing team. The officials are just looking at a possible pass between Bright and Stephen Johnson just before that yellow flag came out. Now, at the moment, Bright is behind Stephen Johnson. He's playing it safe just so that they haven't done anything wrong, but they're hopeful that when the officials look at it, they might be able to redress that situation and possibly pick up a position.
Feedback from Mark Scaife. He has told his team there is oil all the way down the back straight. Greg Murphy sits comfortably in 2nd, right behind Mark Scaife. Pretty dramatic start. We had a dramatic start to race 1. The same here again today in race 2. Greg, what's the latest?
I can tell you guys, the oil is probably coming from Paul Romano's car. Car 24 has just come into pit lane here with substantial damage to the front end, and there's oil that is leaking onto to pit lane. Only very small amounts, but that would be the oil, I guess, that Mark Scaife is talking about.
Race leader Mark Scaife, the back-to-back champion. There's the rain teams down here at Sandown. No one will be diving for slicks at the moment because the conditions are worsening.
Just to quickly let you know, Jason Bright is going to do one more lap once the safety car peels off. The plan is then to bring him in for his pit stop.
Just about ready to go green. Scaife brings them back onto the main straight. Here we go. Look at Lowndes trying to get the early jump on Todd Kelly, then switches back to the inside. It's a drag race down the front straight. Radicic on the inside of Marcus Ambrose as well. Ambrose tries to squeeze, can't do it. And look at Mark Warner. Comes right around the outside. Plenty of positional changes as they try and regain composure. Radicic squeezes Lowndes. Can he keep it on the black stuff? Yes, he can. Radicic has come from 20th to 4th.
Oh, Lowndes, I the inside
Lowndes
again.
attacking under brakes, though. Behind him, just wait till they come through this corner. Lowndes has got it back. So there's plenty
And Murphy for the lead. Greg Murphy in 51 has got into the lead. Scaife contact with the back. Now they bring it onto the back straight. So Greg Murphy has come from 8th up into the lead.
Oh, this is good, isn't it?
Not mucking about here. Building up to 250 Ks up the back straight. Yellow flags are waving. And everyone's aware of that oil laid down just off to the left.
Look at Lowndes. Remember the oil on the insides, the barrel tippy toe stuff here.
Oh,
he gets through.
That's a brave move, isn't it?
He is so courageous, isn't he? Unbelievable, putting his car right over that oil track. He must have had plenty of confidence in the grip of that car.
Look at the stoush between Scaife and Murphy. Oh, and Murphy goes off.
Well, that's oil, definitely Murphy on the oil.
Listen to the wheel spin. Thing just does not want to grab the road.
Todd Kelly takes the lead.
Where did he come from?
Lowndes, yeah, he got a big ground gain there. And Radicic maintains his 4th position. Where is Greg Murphy? Where's the Kiwi drop to? Behind Radicic, 5th place.
Off the road.
Run off.
Very slippery, tricky conditions. Kelly is in. First
Lowndes is the leader.
So,
it's ridiculous. It's been about 4 lead changes in 3 corners.
Incredible battle. Radicic now in second place. He's got Murphy breathing down his neck. Holden Racing Team Commodore Mark Scaife goes with him. Here's the first of the compulsory stoppers. Who's going to win this battle into turn 1? It's a battle between the Fords. Lowndes now takes the lead. Radicic into second after starting way down the grid. Incredible drive by the Rat. Look at Mark Scaife, though, sniffing around the back bumper of the Shell Ford. You can guarantee these positions are going to change pretty soon.
That car of Paul's is working extremely well in the wet. I don't know about the whole idea of coming in this early, because if the track dries,
I totally agree with you.
You're going to have to make another stop.
Yeah, I was thinking it'd be probably pretty smart to hang out there at the moment. Scaife's certainly taking that option, as has the 3 cars he's running with. What a fantastic battle.
You saw Radicic's thing starts to squirrel
jump
around
sideways.
the back.
Look at this fight. Murphy tries to take advantage. He's up along the outside of the Shell Ford. They're going to go side by side across the top. Who's going to give in? Absolute courage from Paul Radicic. Runs over the oil line. So it's Ford, Holden, and Marcus Ambrose getting all sideways behind them as he tries to close the gap to the leading quartet. What a battle.
Greg Murphy nudges on the inside of Radicic. He's got him. Now Radicic has done what Murphy did the previous lap. So the Kmart Commodore and Scaife comes through. And look at this. Radicic has almost lost 3 positions.
Scaife up the inside.
It's going to be on between these two. These guys are going to end up in the fence if they're not careful.
Yeah, I agree with you.
You can just sense it. There's aggro.
Oh, a little bit of a kiss from the Shell Ford. Another one just to be sure. And Marcus Ambrose heads up to
and Murphy.
So the battle stays. Lowndes leading this one. Paul Radicic in second. Mark Scaife in third. And Lowndes now has been able to open up a useful gap. 2.8 seconds as the other guys come in for their compulsory stops.
Greg Murphy in and out. Very slick stop by the Kmart team. Longhurst is in the background as well.
I really have to say, Neil, I reckon that's not a wise thing to do to come in this early, is it?
Well,
really?
I mean, obviously, the first person on the planet that can accurately predict the weather is a genius. But
it doesn't. We're sitting here. It doesn't look like it's going to rain again.
And then, so everybody's gambling. But if it does happen to dry out, then it's certainly going to make this a very interesting strategy for these guys.
It was a bit of a surprise strategy by the Kmart team. They were going to elect to leave Murphy to come in a little bit later on a later strategy. They wanted to have an each-way bet. Todd early, Murph late, because the strategy of a late stop yesterday worked very well for Mark Scaife and Craig Lowndes, who managed to use it to jump quite a few positions. So that was a bit of a surprise.
So the updated Shell Helix race score: Lowndes, Radicic, Scaife. Tander has come from 16th to 4th. Bernard, Ellery, Jones, Richards, Morris and Seaton the top 10. But we're getting in that confusion zone a little bit at the moment, where we've had some in and others not.
Just to let you know, Scaife.
Oh, sorry, Greg. Scaife has gone off the track.
Lock the rears.
Yeah.
Gathers it back up and has been able to rejoin. Now, will he come into pit lane?
He didn't lose much time. How good was that?
Oh, that's a handy one.
I'll be writing that in the notebook.
Sorry, Greg, go on.
Just to let you know, guys, Jason Bright came in very early as well. An 11-second stop. He went out. The message from all team managers down here is extreme caution on the entry to pit lane. And as you leave, there's a light sort of rainbow effect across the wet tarmac down here from the oil that's come from Paul Romano's car.
Well, if conditions weren't tough enough already, they've got a big stream of oil they've got to contend with. Garth Tander comes in the Valvoline Cummins machine. Made a great start. He's in for an early stop. Yes, this weather really could decide the winner of this race.
Well, I'd like to know where the weather's coming from. The flags are very dead here at the moment, and just what the word is in terms of whether there are any showers in the local suburbs, and we'll try and get a report from the Network 10 chopper. Tander can't see out of that car. Did you see how much fog was in there?
Steaming up problems with the windscreen.
Just to let you know, guys, we have in fact been in touch with the guys at Moorabbin Airport. They tell us that the weather will stay roughly the same for this race, so some light drizzle, but we are expecting even heavier showers later this afternoon.
Well, that'll be interesting to see how these guys go. We're just going to monitor their lap times with this changeable weather. Fastest man so far has been Todd Kelly, a 1:25.96. That was on lap 8. So he's currently the fastest man on the circuit.
Well, Kelly was the first of the big names to come in whilst leading the race. He is now in 18th position after his pit stop. Murphy is 19th. Steve Johnson is 20th and Ambrose is 21st.
This time through, Lowndes has recorded a 26.4, Radisich 6.6, Scaife a 7.8. He looks like he could be struggling a little bit setup-wise at the moment. Ellery 6.1, Morris a 7.6, Richards 28.6. So some varied times.
Not that it's all that much to write home about, but Lowndes has added an extra 0.2 of a second on that last lap over Radisich.
And the interesting thing, and just watching Todd Kelly, he's the first of the cars in the queue that's made his compulsory stop. He's currently about 33 seconds behind race leader Lowndes.
And this is for position. Glenn Seaton and Jason Richards. Glenn's now gone to 6th position with that move.
I wonder why Tanner's windscreen's fogging up.
Maybe
the electric windscreen.
Yeah, the heater elements perhaps have failed for some reason.
We hear from the radio that Mark Scaife is scheduled to come in for his stop very shortly. But Todd Kelly's just taken 1.4 seconds off Lowndes that previous lap, so he is flying in the Kmart car, and he's made his compulsory stop.
However, he's down in 17th position, and as you said, Mark, we have to wait for the shakeout now to see what it all means.
Very much a dry line starting to form on the Sandown circuit. Lap 10 of 48, still a long way to go. It's been a very dramatic start.
I'd describe that as less wet, not dry.
Dry, yeah. Now Scaife not coming in this lap, so he adds another one.
Yeah, we just heard the electric demister on Tanner's windscreen has gone up the pictures. So that's
for those that don't know, in the windscreens of V8 supercars, there's a little filaments, heater elements, the same as you have in the rear window in many standard road cars, and so the drivers have the option of switching it on. Understand that without any trim in the car and with a lot of the seals in the car missing by comparison to a conventional road car, when you race these cars, end up with an enormous amount of water and you put your foot on the brake at the end of the straight, and there you can see those elements in the screen. And you put your foot on the brake at the end of the straight and a little tidal wave comes rushing up from the back of the car, and then it sloshes backwards when you get on the gas again. Then you've got the hot exhaust, so it's just a beautiful sauna, and they end up with so much water inside the screen, even when you've got the elements activated.
Just wonder if the track conditions are getting a little bit drier. There's everyone trading fastest laps here. It was Paul Morris, then it was Craig Lowndes, now it's Stephen Johnson, and he's dropped into the 124s.
What happens is you end up with grooves on the road, Mark, so you can see them down there. Because the cars are pounding around, they've now got some temperature in these wet tyres, and there's a lot of heat underneath the cars. You end up with what they do call just a less wet line. It's still wet, but not actually a dry groove, but it'll improve all the time, provided there's not more from above.
Radisich may be coming in now. Just checked on the radio. Let's see if he peels off into pit lane. What's he going to do? Yeah, he's coming in, and will Scaife go with him? No, Scaife's staying out.
Pit lane speed limit, Paul. Lane speed limit.
4.1 seconds the margin from Lowndes to this man, Paul Radisich. But Radisich is now performing his compulsory pit stops.
Craig Lowndes, the fastest man on the circuit now, a 1:24.3 from the race leader.
Scaife's been given an instruction to stay out with Lowndes. What they're going to do, I'd say, is they'll shadow Lowndes and they'll pace themselves and make their call based on it, Greg.
To let you know, on that 9-second stop for Radisich, that's a good one by the Shell Helix race team. So he leaves pit lane. Had a quick word to Jeff Grech a moment ago. He sort of laughed. He said, Rusty, I don't know quite what to do. This is a real gamble with the weather. If the safety car comes out, we're going to get caught. But at the moment, we should keep him out.
And that is a big gamble, Greg, because if the safety car does come out, it'll blow them to pieces. And these are the kinds of conditions where safety cars are likely to lob any tick of the clock if somebody makes a blue and puts one of these cars in the beach.
Radisich has come out behind his teammate Steve Johnson. So Radisich rejoins in 20th position. That pushes Marcus Ambrose. You can see Ambrose in the background back to 21st, Barguana back to 22nd. But still a fair percentage of this field yet to complete their compulsory stop.
Last time through for this man, it was a 1:24.3, and I understand he's going to come in this lap. By comparison, the other flyer in the field is Todd Kelly. He's also done a 24.3 as Craig peels off.
And gradually working his way up. Kelly is now up into 12th. 6.2 seconds the gap up the front as Lowndes comes in. Let's watch the Monroe pit stop timer. How quick will this be? We know if it's around 9 to 10 seconds, it's a quick one.
See the times drop for the first time down into the 9-second bracket. It will have to be a quick one to get him back out again. He was complaining of Dandenong Road corner as a problem because that's the exact point where the chemicals from the horse track wash across the surface in these conditions.
Let's watch where Todd Kelly is on the track when Craig Lowndes rejoins. By our estimations, Kelly probably should overlap him by about 2 or 3 seconds.
Yes, he will. He's gone through.
Kelly's gone through as our former race leader comes out, Craig Lowndes, so he's come out pretty well. See where he rejoins the queue in the overall order. Yeah. Kelly's gone through this. Kelly under brakes, just snuck through shot there. And there's Murphy, so he's third.
Yeah.
Craig Lowndes has rejoined in third spot in terms of the cars that have made their compulsory stops. Keep in mind, Todd Kelly's still back in 9th on the road, but he's effectively a race leader at the moment.
Robbie Starr on the front left. Lucas Docking is operating the air jack system. 8 seconds gone so far for Mark Scape. 9.5. That's a good one by the Holden Racing team.
Can you believe how much faster these crews have got? They started off the year doing 12 and 13 second stops. They've dropped it now under 10. I wonder how much faster. Now watch where Scape rejoins relative to the field.
Speaking of fast, Paul Morris's last lap, and he's the new leader, 23.8.
Look at this.
There's Marcus Ambrose. So this should put Scape about 15th. Yeah, I'm just trying to think in the order of
Mark's working out the net
compulsory stoppers. There's Lowndes, has just gone through, so this will be 5th.
Oh, Stephen Johnson.
He just overtook before the break. You could see him overtake Lowndes there, but he's looks like a major engine failure or something in the Shell car. He's out of this one.
The second half of the year has been frustrating for Steve Johnson, particularly after Bathurst. There was a point where he was in with a chance for the championship. And after the non-finish at the V8 Supercar 1000 at Mount Panorama, it's been a little bit of a downhill slide, but Steve is still the top place Ford driver in the championship.
So Todd Kelly continues to move his way up the leaderboard. Here's our current race leader on the track.
That invariably looks like an engine change for those guys. Remember, we've got another race to go, so that's a big job for the Shell crew.
And they've got to get it back first.
PlayStation fastest lap so far, and this one goes to Greg Murphy. It was on lap 13, a 1:23.47, so it wasn't that long ago. And the drying line that Neil Crompton was referring to, some of these drivers are using it to their advantage.
And new square edges on the wets. When you go back out with your fresh wets, as we have a look at this battle here between Murph and Wills.
Now, Wills hasn't made his compulsory stop. Murph has, so he's not effectively in the battle for the lead until he comes in and makes that stop. Murph gets room up the inside.
Fresh wets actually make a significant difference because, as you can well imagine, they get knocked around in these conditions very quickly. The edges on the blocks on the wets round off very quickly, and therefore you lose grip. So when you put the fresh tyre back on, you suddenly get improved everything: braking, mid-corner speed, and traction.
For the order at the moment: Morris, Richards, Faulkner. Kelly is the first of the compulsory stoppers. He's now 4th on the track. Greg Murphy is 7th, but he's effectively 2nd, and Craig Lowndes is 8th, and he's effectively 3rd once all these compulsory stops have taken place.
Don't forget, on the Shell Helix race score, the blue boxes with the P in it indicates the drivers that have completed those compulsory pit stops. You're looking at Greg Murphy, who's had a very strong run today in these trying conditions. Likewise, his teammate, his younger teammate, Todd Kelly, who currently sits 4th at the moment.
The radio on the 17 Shell car went very quiet when Stephen came off there before. I just had a word to Dean Orr and the team. They tell me that there's no real problem with Stephen's car. He came off in the wet conditions. The car's bogged and it's going to be too difficult to get out.
Well, that's good news. It looked like from the steam
coming out the pipe, didn't it?
Yeah, that it had a problem. So hopefully that is the case, that all's okay there, and he'll just get on with it afterwards as Wills now takes his stop.
Was running in 8th on the road. So it's going to drop him down the order a little bit. Paul Morris. Jason Richards is in 2nd in the Team Kiwi car. John Faulkner in 3rd. Todd Kelly is the first of the compulsory stoppers. He's in 4th with Murphy behind him. So at the moment it's a Kmart Racing 1-2 with Craig Lowndes in 3rd trying to hunt him down.
If you missed yesterday's opening race, Greg Murphy was in an interesting situation. He was 2nd on the road, challenging Mark Scape, and was handed a stop-go penalty for knocking the cones off on top of the ripple strips. And that sent him all the way back to 8th. This young man, though, finished 3rd, Todd Kelly.
Time continuing to tumble. The PlayStation fastest lap board tells the story. It's Todd Kelly, 1:22.53. He's the first man to drop into the 22s.
I think you'll find, Mark, that Ingles in the 21s. Oh, it was. They've changed it now, 121. So
there's no record of it there.
No, it was up there, and then they decided it wasn't.
1:22.53, the fastest lap of the race so far from this man, Todd Kelly. And hasn't he come on gangbusters, this kid? He's 22 years of age from Mildura in Victoria. Was part of the Holden Racing team's Young Lions program, cut his teeth with HRT. And now in his first year, full rookie season in V8 Supercar racing, he's really hit his straps. Most impressive youngster with a big career ahead of him. So pressure's on. Paul Morris still leading this one on the track. Jason Richards just went through and shot John Faulkner behind him. That's second and third on the road. And here's Craig Lowndes. He's running third, effectively third, about 5 seconds behind Greg Murphy at the moment, and trying to close the gap to the Kmart car.
Let's have a listen and see if he can pick up the wheel spin. Quite frequent.
Actually, he's closing on Murphy very quickly. It's down to 2.6 seconds, the difference between Murphy and Lowndes. So he's really got the hammer down in the Gibson Motorsport car. It must be working very well at the moment.
No shortage of water on the screen.
A very strong run by the Gibson Motorsport AU XR8, 17 of 41. We're approaching the halfway mark. Lowndes gets out of shape. Whoa, that was interesting.
Very quick through there, isn't it? Oh, very, in these conditions. Woof.
Wasn't quite 2.6. It's actually 7 seconds between Lowndes and Murphy. So we'll watch that gap, see if he can close it here as we take some telemetry from on board the Gibson Motorsport Falcon.
Just have a listen to it off this corner, Mark. It's actually got pretty good traction because they often flare up very badly off that spot. And your comment before about him making reasonable ground at the moment will be because he's actually got pretty good traction. I think these top 3 cars are all working well in that area at the moment.
Still about just under 7 seconds behind Murphy. So it'll be interesting to see whether Lowndes can actually close the gap in these treacherous conditions.
Well, he just did a 22.9 on the last lap, and his opposition in front of him into the 23. So your observation's right, but he's got a long way to go.
Yeah.
Here's the battle between Marcus Ambrose and Mark Scaife, and updating you on that scrap for second in the championship. All Russell Ingall needed to do was finish ahead of Jason Bright and start the third race. He's halfway there because Ingall is currently in 15th position. Bright is back in 19th.
Scaife is giving him the high beam torture there, isn't he?
Sneaks up the inside, has a bit of a look. Oh, he's actually bumped the Pertec forward. They're going to go side by side under brakes. Marcus fights back. Lowndes, boy oh boy. Look at Scaife here, really giving him plenty. Headlights on, goes up the inside. Good drive from the TWR prepared car.
Both those guys handled themselves very well then. I mean, Marcus caught it and Mark didn't go on with it. So if he'd sort of gone on with it, it could have actually got a bit messier, but no point in either of them being off the road. Black flag for Paul Morris, so we'll try and get word on what that's about. Some on-track infringement. Now, Scaife's best positioned here. He'll make that pretty easy, I think.
Current race leader, Paul Morris, has been shown a black flag. Not sure of the infringement. Apparently it's for curb hopping.
So it's actually tyre bundles on the insides of some of the corners, and you'll see them in various places.
There,
and if you nail those repeatedly and shift them, which is what they're really trying to stop you from doing, then they take a dim view of it.
So the order at the moment is Morris. Kelly is up to second now, and Morris has yet to perform his pit stop. So Todd Kelly is the #1 man in this race at the moment. Murphy, Mazira, Lowndes, Ambrose, Scaife, Radicic and Barguan are the top 10.
Still about 6.7 seconds, the gap between Craig Lowndes and Greg Murphy. So Lowndes at the moment was making inroads there, but Murphy's been able to respond. And here is the big Kev machine. Serve
22.6 the last time round for Kelly. So he continues to show very strong pace.
Substantially quicker than anybody else, and it's
23.5 the last time for Murphy. So he's nearly a second quicker on that lap than his teammate. Lowndes, by comparison, a 23.2.
Todd Kelly is on his way to his first V8 Supercar win if he can maintain this pace.
No, he had a win in Canberra.
He did too. Sorry, my apologies there. So another good way. It'll be a great way to finish the year for him.
He sure has come on, for such a young kid, really good.
watching the racing from the sidelines in the warmth of a garage. Stevie Johnson, what happened?
I don't know. We came out of Dandenong Road, and the car just developed a misfire, like it was on 7 cylinders, and I got down to the next corner, and it just all stopped. So it's obviously had a failure in the engine somewhere.
Paint the picture for us. What's it like for these guys driving in the conditions that we're experiencing now?
Well, as you can probably tell, we were going pretty good, and I quite liked it, but you know, it's just one of those things that we can't help now, and we're just going to have to really storm through from the back of the grid in the next race and try to salvage some points for our spot in the championship. But it's not that bad, really, apart from the oil that was put down.
6.6 seconds between Todd Kelly and Faulkner, who is yet to make his compulsory stop. He's still out there. It's Murphy, 4.9 seconds further behind Faulkner. So Murphy is effectively about 13 seconds behind his teammate. Oh, problems Morris here for Morris.
Exit of turn 1.
And he would have had to make 2 stops. He had to come in and do his stop-go penalty, go out and then come in and make his compulsory stop.
The track's now gone to what you'd describe as heavy wet, as Rodney Ford says, a big understeer off at turn 1. It's now heavy wet, and the times have tumbled a couple of seconds accordingly. It really is a very wet track, and it very difficult for drivers here to sometimes reset their rhythm. What they had one lap doesn't apply the next lap in terms of grip, and you can see that shot as they come up the back straight, just how dirty it is. Or in fact, I think that's the end of the front straight.
Yeah, I was saying to Neil in the break that the first turn 1 must have improved, because before they were spearing off left, right and centre with any amount of surface water there.
Cameron McConville's coming in for an unscheduled stop here. He's already completed one, but if you look down on pit lane here, this will give you an idea how treacherous the conditions are. We'll show you the rainbow effect from the oil that's fallen on pit lane, with all the water continuously falling down. Now, I also want to show you this little jigger here. I've just been into the Valvoline Cummins race team. This little piece of metal has a cable tie around it and a rag. That's what Garth Tander has been using while he's been racing out there in these treacherous conditions to try and wipe the windshield down. By the way, Baz, they said thanks for your undies.
And is that Cam's approved? Yeah. No Mex undies?
Someone may be wondering at home why he has that on that aluminium extension. It's because they're strapped so tightly into the seat they're nowhere near reaching the screen with their bare hands, so they've got to put the cloth on an aluminium extension to be able to reach the screen. That's hard work out there.
You've got to feel sorry for him. It's bad enough as it is. I mean, even if the screen's clear, isn't it, without a fogged up screen.
We did a race here a few years ago in a WGR car with the screen heater failed and the windscreen wiper failed.
Was that the same race you were looking at your watch going up the back straight?
I think it might have been, actually. Praying for 5 o'clock.
Shell Helix race score, and as you can see, there's only one guy in that top run who has not completed the compulsory stop. That's John Faulkner. He's in second, which really elevates Murphy to second, Lowndes to third, Scaife to fourth, Ambrose to fifth, Bradisic to sixth, Barguana seventh, Richards eighth, Ingle ninth, and Ellery 10th.
I wonder if the Faulkner crew are waiting for the weather to fine up so they can take advantage of that compulsory stop. I think they're going to be waiting a long time. This is really setting in, isn't it?
Lowndes was quick again on that lap relative to everybody else.
25.28 for the Gibson Motorsport Falcon. Here is the enforcer, Ingle. And we hear on the radio that he's been complaining something about gearbox, whether it's...
Well, let's have a listen. We might be able to hear. He's up to 11th now. Second gear through here. Sounds fine.
The interesting thing is too, look, looking down at a problem there.
That it looked, I'd say that's more to do with the roll bar adjustment, as the gear shift was smooth.
Russell, the gap is only 4 seconds now.
I'm not sure if Russell can see out of his rearview mirror at the moment, but Jason Bright is catching him hand over fist. He's lapping much faster than the Castrol Commodore.
I don't think he can actually see very well. I think so. That's his biggest issue at the moment.
And keep in mind, Ingle has to finish in front of Bright in this race if he's going to hold on to that second place in the championship.
Yeah, he's looking around the court. Whoa, someone's gone.
Scaife. Whoa, dear.
Now, can he stop it down here?
It was a good catch.
Whoa. Well, that's an indication of how treacherous it is out there at the moment. Scaife's been off on the grass on a number of occasions already this race, so if the champ's in trouble, you know it's tough.
Well, tough out there, but slick in the pit stops most definitely. Take a look at this. This is the time recorded by Mark Scaife's pit stop. An 8.9, the first ever recorded during a race, confirmed by the team. That is the pit stop. How quick can you get these times down, Jeff Greg, in your pit stops? They're amazing.
Well, Grant, probably the last couple of months we've been snowed in the stops by Kmart, so there's a bit of rivalry between the two teams. But look, there's probably more competition in pit lane and out on the circuit at the moment. Everyone's trying to obviously get it down pat. It's not. I think it's not that you're going to get any quicker. It's just a matter of getting the 4 guys synchronised and doing a perfect stop all at the same time. So it's really hard. It's quite exciting actually. You're watching, you see one slip, and you think, oh, is he going to do it in time? But look, when they get it right, they're fantastic. And probably an 8.5 is probably about the best stop you'd see, given that the rules with the wheel nuts that you have to use and the guns.
We'll keep it up. It's definitely a part of a race-winning strategy. So we'll see you do it in the next race, hopefully.
I hope so. Cheers. Bye.
Well, Russell Ingall has fallen into the clutches of Jason Bright. In fact, Bright's got in front of Ingall. Yeah. So the battle for second place in this championship, if it stays that way, will go down to the final race.
The last time through, Todd Kelly again showing real superior speed compared to the next bunch of cars behind him. Had a huge margin. There he is. And if you look at this track at the moment, you can see that it's got a real heavy shine to it everywhere, which means that you're just literally all at sea. No longer got those groove advantages that you saw earlier on.
The other interesting thing about that previous lap, Neil, was that when Scaife went flying across the grass there on the approach to Dandenong Road, he was faster than the 3 cars in front of him.
He's gone down into the 123s. There's something like 16 seconds between he and his teammate Greg Murphy.
The last lap from Jason Bright was 126.7. The last lap from Ingall was 131. So I think.
Well, here's a comparison. Kelly last lap 23.8, Murphy 25.9. It's nearly a 2-second margin. So the car's working good. I mean, it's a two-way street, this thing. It's the driver and the car. You've got to have the combination of both. There's plenty of good drivers out there. Maybe their car's not working well.
It's a fascinating story with Todd Kelly's development as a V8 supercar driver. In the early years, he admits he really had a trouble getting a handle on just how you drove these cars. But the trouble was he'd learnt the disciplines from driving a Formula Holden, and driving one of these cars on the limit, a totally different requirement. He said what really flicked the switch in his head was they went to a test day at Winton, and they actually strapped him in alongside,
he went for a ride
alongside Mark Scaife and Craig Lowndes when he was driving for HRT, and all of a sudden, just feeling it through the seat of his pants, he understood what was required to drive the car on the limit. Got in the car and went out like 1.5 seconds faster straight away. And from there, it's just been an amazing climb to the top.
It was just fabulous to watch in open wheelers in the smaller categories in Formula 4. Then he stepped up to the very fast and powerful Formula Holden category, and he was just very, very quick in both of those. When he raced against Ambrose and Tander in the 97 Formula 4 Championship, and look at this, he's dominating this second race of the V8 Ultimate as he flashes by Russell Ingall.
He said one of the hardest things he had to adapt to driving one of these cars was the braking. In a Formula Holden, you sort of drive up to the corner, brake and turn in. This requires a totally different technique.
Went down to the Perkins garage and had a word to some of the team down there. They tell me that Russell's having real problems seeing out the front of his car, and when he drove past moments ago, the windshield looks all smoky. Apparently the demister is not working properly, and they believe there's some big cracks in that windshield. They're not sure whether something has flicked up onto the windscreen during this race, but for some reason the demister has failed, and it's causing big problems for Russell.
Oh, look at that.
I don't think it's working at all.
No, it looks terrible.
That is completely blocked. This is 250 kilometres an hour, folks, if you can believe it. You can just see the odd bit of white line on the edge of the track. Jason
Bright.
There's more than one car.
Just go, John Faulkner.
So Faulkner involved with that as well, and there's damage to the front of the Holden Racing Team Commodore. We'll try and get a better look at that. Faulkner had only just made his compulsory stop, one of the last cars to do so, probably the last car in the field to do so, and he's got tangled up with Bright, who'd taken Russell Ingall. He's keeping this battle for second in the championship alive. So, damage to the front of the Dynapack Commodore. Let's have a look at the replay, Neil.
Well, John will be on cold tyres or semi-cold tyres, and I think Jason's had a look down the inside but couldn't get it done cleanly. Got a long way up.
He lost the rear of the Holden Racing team.
Yeah, because John turned in and was heading to the apex, and there's a big tyre bundle there, so there's nowhere to go. So Bright's locked it up. Had a half lose, very little damage, I'd say.
Yeah, doesn't look too bad, does it?
More frustration for both parties.
Right, Jason Bright maintains 11th. And that threat from Russell Ingall no longer a threat as Russell has dropped back to 15th now. Lap 31 of 48. It's going to be a hard day's work here at Sandown. If conditions remain as is, there's another one of these races still to come this afternoon. Same distance, another 48 lapper, 150 kilometres worth. Some damage to the driver's side mirror there on Bright's HRT Commodore.
So the order is Todd Kelly, 17 seconds up the road from his teammate Greg Murphy. So it remains a Kmart Racing 1-2. Craig Lowndes, the best of the Fords, 6 seconds behind Murphy. And that gap has remained fairly static since the compulsory stop. Here is the man in second place who dominated the previous round in New Zealand. Pukekohe was in brilliant form there, pole position and 3 race wins. No one touched him all weekend.
Notice they've got a bigger wiper sweep on their car than Russell does on his. And the Kmart car sweeps fully to the left.
Yeah.
So this battle for second place isn't over yet. Craig Lowndes still got his head down. We're interesting to watch that gap as these final laps unfold. Here's our man, Jason Richards.
Oh dear.
Just turns it on for the cameras. I must have known we were watching.
You fixed him up, didn't you?
Yeah.
I remember he went very, very well in the rain at Winton. So it's a great equaliser, the rain, Neil, isn't it? I mean, you can have some old bucket of rubbish and sort of still. I did not insinuate that this is a bucket of rubbish by any stretch of the imagination, but you could be in a car that they're all in hysterics.
Just restate your name and phone number so that nobody rings us.
dig your way out of that one, Bazza.
No, it's look at this Scaife.
Same thing again,
exactly
same corner.
Same thing again.
Well, he did a very fast lap doing that last time, so maybe you found that's the hot way through.
What I was trying to say was basically you can be in something that is not exactly 100% competitive.
Yes.
And you should see they're all in hysterical laughing as I try and dig my way out of the mire.
That's interesting. I was just looking at that Scaife incident going across the grass. He just said his new fastest lap on that lap.
Really?
A 1:21.56. So that's the quick way to get to Dandenong Road.
Marcus Ambrose has done a good job defending and holding Paul Radicic at bay. Marcus is currently 5th, Radicic 6th.
Just popped my head into the Kmart Racing garage and had a quick word with team boss Rob Crawford. He tells me no plans to do anything. They want to keep the boys as they are. And there's a lot of fingers crossed down here for a Kmart 1-2 at present.
They had a magnificent time in New Zealand, courtesy of this guy, Greg Murphy, with that clean sweep at Pukekohe. Now it's his teammates' turn to stand on the top step of the podium, and he'll do that in just 5 laps' time.
Finished second in the Australian Drivers' Championship back in 1998, Todd Kelly. He was also third in the Australian Formula Ford Championship in the same year. He took his first V8 heat win on the streets of Canberra, the GMC 400 last year. He's only had 28 championship starts. He's already been on the podium twice. And this will be an incredible moment if he can bring home victory here.
We should point out too that his 18-year-old brother, younger brother, Rick, is competing this weekend. His V8 Supercar debut by himself, that is. He has done the Enduros, the Queensland 500 and the V8 Supercar 1000, and Rick is back in 23rd position.
Paul Radicic currently running 6th in the sole remaining Shell Ford. Saw Stephen Johnson go out much earlier in the event. Suspected engine failure. Radicic has not been able to move out of this spot. Ambrose about 1.8 seconds up the road. That's him up in the mist and spray there just ahead. So positions remaining fairly static as the race started to settle down after that stop. This man has tried everything he knows to close the gap to Greg Murphy, but he's been unsuccessful so far. It was down to just over 2 seconds at one stage.
Yeah, it's increased now
3.6.
Yeah. And it's actually the gap between he and Mark Scaife has closed up a little bit as he just grabs a drink.
4 laps remaining for race leader Todd Kelly. 11 seconds now the gap between him and his teammate Greg Murphy. Here's Lowndes, 4.4 seconds the gap behind Murphy. So maybe now he's accepted his fate and his 3rd position and just bring it home.
Well, I think it's been a very positive weekend for the Gibson Motorsport team. They had a lightning pit stop yesterday that put Craig into that top 3 position, where they outsmarted the Castrol Holden team, put him ahead of Russell Ingall in pit lane, and 2 podiums from 2 races is a nice way to end the year. He'll be looking for a strong result in this one as well. Here's Stephen Richards a little further back in 8th position behind Jason Bargwanna. There's not much between those guys.
Doing better than the team boss at the moment. Glenn Seaton's back in 18th. Stephen Richards well inside the top 10.
I've got to say, yesterday Craig's car looked fantastic, didn't it, in the drive? Really, really good.
Certainly looked strong over the curbs, didn't it, in the end of the back straight. That's a good drive from Stephen Richards in the FTR Ford. And must be some strange thing happening with the Glenmobile, because he's a long way back, so maybe got tangled up in something early in the race.
Stephen Richards started 15th, currently 8th, and to reiterate that point, Stephen will not be in the FTR colours come season 2002. We will definitely see him in a new team. We're closing down this second race, just 2 laps to go.
Oh,
Engel is slowed.
Oh, look at that. That's obviously terminal, whatever that is.
That is not good.
That impacts this championship scenario, I should imagine. So we'll do some number crunching, get the abacus out and see what that's all about.
Have a look at his screen.
Oh,
Speaking of screens, we've just been theorising on why Lowndes perhaps has backed off from his attack of Murphy. The wiper's not working on the Gibson Motorsport car. Whether he's chosen to switch it off, I don't imagine he would have turned it off.
That's inside for me.
It's Ingall's car. But if we just have a look at Lowndes' car before this race is over, we might get a clearer picture of why he's...
Listen.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure what's going on there. Stephen Ellery, he's in 10th.
Need to hear more of it, but yeah, there's something weird going on.
Ellery, very stable run, hasn't it?
Yeah, consistent run from this team, certainly toward the second half of the championship. And they've been regular top 10 finishes, and at this level of competition, there's nothing to sneeze at. Good, strong performance from Ellery. Now, this is the in-car and Lowndes' car, and you can see quite clearly he's not using the windscreen wiper. Now, whether that's been deliberate, well, it's out to 4.3 seconds, the gap between himself and Murph, so that's stabilised. 2 laps remaining. And I'd imagine Neil Crompton didn't want the wiper on in these conditions, wouldn't you?
Generally speaking, sometimes you don't if you start to just get these real bad smears across the screen, but I suspect it's more likely a failure than a choice.
So that could be the story. 3.7 seconds.
No,
so
it's failed. It's just stopped there up in the middle of the cycle, hasn't it, for some reason?
He's actually closed the gap to Murphy in that little time there. It was out to 4.4. Now it's under 4. So Murphy probably hitting a bit of traffic.
Now, where is Russell Ingall? We'll try and update you on that situation, because that's making life tough for him in the championship runners-up position battle. Jason Bright is currently in 12th position. He'll pick up 42 points for that.
Whoops.
That's Paul Wheel.
That's in a funny
Damage
spot.
on the front. It's at the end of the main straight.
Well, yeah, but it's not where you turn in. It's he's actually must have clouded the wall before he got there. He must have had to lose before he got to the corner.
I've seen that plenty of times at Sandown, cars actually getting up on an aquaplane and just taking off.
That's very weird.
Before the cars even reach the braking zone. Well, plenty of damage to the Falcon. Let's have a look at this on the replay.
I reckon he... Oh, did he... Now, did someone...
Russell's in the middle. Yeah, Russell's in the middle of that.
Well, there's damage on the back of it, so Russell hit the back of him.
Oh!
See the damage on the back of it?
Yeah.
So maybe Russell got into the back of him because he couldn't see it.
Couldn't see where he's going, yeah. There's lots.
Oh, it's a bit late. That sounds like a pretty good theory to me, Neil.
Well, it's got damage on the back of it.
There's no other reason why you'd spin.
Well, unless it was from early in the race, but let's see if... well, see, there's nothing much showing on the front of Russell's car, so...
Not quite sure.
Don't know.
I'll tell you what that damage was on the rear of the car. He was caught in that concertina.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. The
traffic jam, yeah.
Stage of the race.
Last lap, Todd Kelly is on the way home. Second career victory, less than a lap away.
12 seconds the gap, so he got the real jump on the field there after that stop. He was the first of the cars in the queue to make his compulsory stop, and it paid off handsomely for Kelly. But not only that, the setup on this car obviously superior to anything out there at the moment. He really has been able to blow the field to bits. He's controlled it from very early on.
And a Kmart 1-2 coming up. Greg Murphy holding on to second. Lowndes is still in third, some 4 seconds behind Greg Murphy. But the last couple of corners here at Sandown, a dry race 1, a very, very wet race 2. And look at that. They say, you legend. Todd Kelly brings it home. Victory for the Victorian youngster. Great win for Todd Kelly. His teammate Greg Murphy is some 12 seconds behind. There is the Kmart team, Rob Crawford and his gang.
This finish for third could be pretty close, because I believe Scaife's been catching Lowndes. There he is. No, Lowndes will still hang on to third place. Scaife really made a massive amount of ground on the Gibson car in the last 2 laps, but not close enough to take third place from Lowndes.
Marcus Ambrose in the mist somewhere there will bring the Pertec Ford home in 5th. Radicic in 6th. As they come home. Eventful race for Mark Scaife. He had quite a few off-track excursions.
Said his fastest lap Actually, no, he's actually undercut that by another half a second to 1:21.05. So Scaife continually brought the lap record down over the course of those final laps. A 1:21.05, the fastest lap of the race going to Scaife. So he was really standing on it in those final laps, but not fast enough to catch Craig Lowndes at the end.
Race winner, car 15, the youngster. His nickname used to be Toddler. Getting a bit old for that these days, but a very, very sensible, terrific drive for victory in race 2 here at the V8 Ultimate. A Kmart 1-2 and Lowndes, the final step on the podium. We'll have more for you from Sandown after this.